Hello, everyone. Happy July. We're in the swing of things here at the Sewing Workshop. My name's Alex, and I'm here with Linda. And today we have a really happy, bright, lovely live stream for you guys. We're talking about one of our favorite summer projects. It's something we always kind of keep rolling. We think back to often around the season, I think, because it's such a happy project. And the Venice shirt is one of Linda's favorite shirts. You said to me the other day, Linda, that you wanted to make a new summer Venice. And there are just so many great details in this shirt. So we're going to talk to you about not only the Venice, but a few variations of the Venice that we've made over the years, one of which I'm wearing right now. You'll see pictures of in a minute. It is called the Venice de. So it's taking the Venice, and we made a summer version of it and removed a lot of details, made it short sleeves, and kept that fantastic ruffle detail. So that's what I'm wearing, and I'm wearing my bright pink Saltwell pants. But I've been thinking about how I've been watching Wimbledon the last couple weeks, and also all I want to wear is white everything. So if you've been watching Wimbledon, leave a comment in the chat. I saw some of my favorite players won this morning. So anyway, we'll get to white another day. Today is not the day for white at the Sewing Workshop, although a white Venice would be pretty fantastic. Let's give some announcements here. So I'm going to share my screen and talk to you guys a little bit about this summer. So as you know, we have what's called the Summer Sewing Series. Say that 10 times fast at the Sewing Workshop. So this is something we've done for the last few years where we combine our summer projects with Sew Confident. So this year it's all about our newest pattern, the bird blouse, and our project for July, which is the trio pants. So this is a project we did earlier in the year with Sew Confident. We provided a PDF tutorial, but in July we thought, let's revisit it. Summers get really busy. Sometimes people get a little bit behind on their Sew Confident projects, and we love the trio pants so much. There's so much to talk about with this pant. We are having a virtual sew along. It is actually this Thursday, July 10th. There will be 3 sessions on Thursday, July 10th with me and Linda. So if you want to join us for this live virtual sew along on the 10th, you can still sign up for the Summer Sewing Series. We'll post the link to the Summer Series in the chat so you get access to not only our newest pattern and the online workshop for how to make our bird blouse, but also the virtual sew along details. So you can join us for just the months of June and July to be a part of making both of these projects, which obviously go together well. You could get fabric for your trio pants to go with the fabric for your bird blouse, so you have a summer ensemble. So don't hesitate to sign up for the Sew Confident Summer Sewing Series. Even if you're not a part of Sew Confident, you can just join on a one-time basis. Then I also just wanted to mention that you can as well sign up for season 2. So last week during our live stream, Linda and our team, we showed off our 4 projects for season 2. We are making our Era jacket into a pullover variation. We have a new knit top called the Contour Top. We are using the existing pattern of the Lotus skirt in October, and we have a new pants pattern, the Sullivan pants, coming out in November. So this is an opportunity to, again, join and make an ensemble with us through our Sew Confident program. You can join through season 2. So you can just make 4 months worth of projects and be with us throughout the fall months. So register today. Both of these, the Summer Sewing Series and Season 2, are at a special discounted price and are only available for a limited time. So join both of these programs if you want to just continue sewing each month with us at the Sewing Workshop. So are you happy with Wimbledon, Linda?
You know, I was watching Sabalenka this morning. Did she win?
She did, yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, we still have a couple of Americans in the men's. We still have 2 or 3 or 4 Americans in the women's. Mm-hmm. So Americans are doing really well.
Mhm.
A couple of my favorites have lost,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's been fun. And you're right about the white. I think that all tennis players should be required to wear white. It just looks so pretty,
Mhm.
especially on the grass and at Wimbledon. I was actually at Wimbledon, but not the tournament. But I got to see the um, the grounds, the museum. It was really cool, and
Mhm.
I'd love to go sometime. I
Mhm.
I haven't really ever been to one of the big four tournaments. I've been to the Paribas Open in California, but which is kind of the fifth major, but I haven't been to one of the big time majors. So
Yeah. I've been seeing all of the chatter about the queues and how long people wait in the line to even get into Wimbledon if you
yeah.
if you don't have, access to tickets in their original system. So,
Well, they sell a lot of tickets for people that sit on the hill. I don't know what they call that. Do they call it the hill?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So there's hundreds of people buying tickets just to sit on the hill and watch it on TV.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's a pretty big deal.
Sounds nice. With the Pim's cup and strawberries and cream, can't go
Yep.
wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, like I mentioned, you did say the other day that the Venice is one of your favorite patterns. But we say that about a lot of things, but I think this is true.
Well, one of the things I like about it is, of course, I love the ruffling. It's not too much. It's just a little bit. And, but I remember years ago, I was writing an article for Threads, and I needed a basic shirt pattern. And back then, I couldn't find one. The big four didn't have one: Vogue, Simplicity, McCall's, or Butterick. Quick Sew had one. I think that was the only one. But even though the uh, Venice has these ruffle details and so forth, when you actually take the ruffle off of it and look at the other details, this is a great basic shirt. And sometimes we just need a shirt. You see, I follow the websites and trends and Instagrams of design houses and designers, and everybody has a basic shirt in blue, in chambray or white linen, or I think that just it's one of those garments we need in our life. Every once in a while, you just have to wear a basic shirt. So this can be a basic shirt. We have two patterns that actually perform like that. One is the Venice and one is the Florence. And if you just take away the bottom details of both of those, you've got a great basic shirt. That's one of the reasons why I like it. I like it because I like to make it in cotton, like a shirting. And, I have one on today that is in a cotton shirting. And, it's got a little room in it, so there's a little air. It's going to be hot today. Even though it's long sleeve, I roll them up and I feel very cool and comfortable in this garment for summer. I could make it short sleeve. A lot of people do that. I kind of like the long sleeves to roll up, but whatever. But it's a nice fitting on the shoulder, traditional garment.
Mhm. Well, let's talk about some of the variations we've made because we
Okay.
really went down a rabbit hole, I think, with taking this, as you say, basic shirt concept and finding different ways of making it. So Aaron on the left, sorry if there's a little bit of an echo, but Aaron on the left had an inspiration image from a designer. And I was looking at the tutorial this morning, and my goodness, I mean, this version she made is exactly like the design version that she saw in a picture, like colors and everything. It matches perfectly. And so she took the Venice and made a short sleeve version. And, the bottom detail of the Venice, but especially the back, it's such an intriguing design detail. This back vent and opening with the gather turning up into that vent. Very, very cool. So on the left is the sleeveless version. It's without the collar and stand. It is, of course, doesn't have the button details down the front, so it's essentially like a tank top version of the Venice. Here in the middle is Erin wearing it, the sample that Linda showed, the traditional from the pattern version of the Venice. And then my version that I mentioned, I am wearing the Venice de. So not a tank top version. There are short sleeves to this Venice, but removing the details of the front button closure, the collar and stand, and then there's a slight alteration to how the gathers are happening on the bottom detail. It's not gathering all the way around, as you can see, but it's left a little bit flat. So from the front, it really looks like a woven t-shirt, but from the back, it has that same detail of the Venice.
Exactly. I think the sleeveless version shows the ruffle detail the best because it is a contrasting fabric. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you put that up there. So if you need to go ahead and say something, you just go right ahead.
Oh, that's fine. I'm happy to tag team. Do you want to show something?
I was going to show the sleeveless version.
Sure.
Yeah. So I was going to show how the ruffle ends at a little bit in front of the side seam. It's kind of inserted into that square. So normally there's a button closure down the front. Normally there's a collar and stand. One thing I wanted to point out is that we made some bias binding out of the self fabric to finish the arm's eye, which, by the way, with this shirt, I don't think you have to do anything to it because it's sleeveless. I think you can use the original arm's eye and then put your binding on it. And the binding is also at the neck. But on the other version, we just used packaged tape. So obviously it can be contrasting. This was around the neck only, so you can top stitch that. This one has been finished with some hand stitches that don't show up very much. So that's the ruffle detail, but you still have the same ruffle in the back with the 3 buttons and where this ruffle kind of swoops up. I love this detail. I think it's very cool. And it's really easy to do. Looks a little more complicated than it really is.
So here's a few details about the Venice, all of the kind of premier sewing techniques within this pattern. So this is straight from the pattern what the Venice is like. So you have, and then one of the interesting details, Linda, I'm sure you'll talk about it a little bit more, but it has an all-in-one collar and stand. And also there are shoulder darts in this pattern, which is interesting. And then this double button front detail, you can see it really well on Linda's version that she's wearing. The placement of the buttons is slightly different, so they're paired together. And then this bottom ruffle detail that's going to end on the back with 3 button faced vent. And this pattern is PDF and printed, so comes in both options.
Exactly. I do want to talk about the collar because it's very unique. People sometimes bypass a pattern because it has a collar and a stand, which, by the way, we have a really great tutorial on collars and stands. And in that tutorial, there are 2 methods of applying a collar and stand, one of which is my favorite and the other is totally suitable. But this all-in-one collar and stand is literally that. The stand is already attached to the collar. So it's shaped like this. Here's the stand part, and here's the collar part. Now, I've interfaced the entire backside of the collar, and when I do a 1 layer of interfacing, that includes the seam allowances all the way around. But to make that stand up better, I'll put a 2nd layer of a slightly heavier interfacing just in the stand portion only. And this time it does not have seam allowances. So that's what that looks like on the inside. And then, of course, the collar folds down and the stand does its job of keeping the collar up. After I've done all of that and sewn them 2 collars together, then a really important part is of any collar and stand actually is to wrap this around a hem, pin it, and you're folding that along the top of the second layer of interfacing. And then you just steam that, give it a little bit of a hand press. So you're building in the roll and you're building in the stand to make it stand up. So 2 really important things, plus I have a third one, that happen with collars and stands, all of which is explained in that tutorial of both the collar and stand tutorial. And we have a tutorial on making the Venice from So Confident Season 8. And that's also available as a standalone tutorial. But one of the ways that this has sort of changed my life, this whole template thing that we talk about. We talk about it mostly with hems, pocket shapes, but I don't know about you, but when I'm making a stand and sewing this curve, I can't, if I'm just sewing them, I can't get them to look alike. One is always a little flatter than the other, one's a little more pointed than the other. So I cut templates out of tagboard or a manila file folder. This happens to be for the cottage. This happens to be for the Berwick. Look at that tiny little Berwick one. Without this template, I don't know if I could sew it. So I put this on when I'm sewing the 2 collars together. This little template does not include seam allowances. So this is just a drawing tool. It's not a sewing tool. I'm going to take like a friction pen and I'm going to draw around this stand. And I'm going to do that on both sides so that I have a nice, pure, thin line to sew on. And ever since this, my stands have looked alike. It's really made a huge difference in the quality of this. And, you know, this is just where everybody's looking, kind of. You know, they're kind of right in here. So you want your stand and collar to look really good. And all of those tricks are in the tutorials. So that's a little bit about collars and stands.
I'm wondering why not always have just a combined collar and stand?
There is no reason why you can't do it. Now, there are some pattern pieces that are more curved. You have a curved stand or maybe a curved collar. This does require a little straighter approach, but there's no reason why you can't take the pattern pieces of any collar and stand garment and put the 2 pattern pieces together and make it one. I don't know where, I wish I could remember where I picked this up. I think it was a ready-to-wear piece that I looked at and realized, oh my gosh, there's not a seam there. It's just one less seam, one less hazard of where to stop and start. It's easy. So there you go.
Nice. Well, we can look at some pictures of the Venice and the variations. So here in the middle, you can see Linda's blue version of the button placement, which I think is just a really cool detail. And it also has 3 buttons on the back. So there are a lot of buttons in this shirt. But we have great buttons, so no fear there. So these are all the traditional Venice. And then this is the Venice Shirt. So this is a tutorial that we have. It is only $5. And it talks about how to make this version of the Venice, going through every detail from pattern work, step-by-step, order of construction, fabric cutting layouts, and all the kind of insight you need to making this version, as well as considerations for even Erin's sleeveless version also. So there is this version, and then this is the same version as what I'm wearing, just in a different fabric. So, and I think the sleeves are shorter and the hemline is curved, but this is the same concept of taking the Venice and making it into a summer t-shirt style with a woven fabric. Although it would be cool in a knit as well. I don't think we have a Venice out of a knit, but there's no reason why it couldn't be done.
Well, I know we have one in a polyester satin. We have one in a rayon crepe. But you're right. I don't believe we have a knit one. But boy, there wouldn't be any reason why you couldn't do knit, either printed knit or solid knit or whatever. I do like the contrast of this ruffle on this one because it really makes it stand out.
And I love considering the styling with it. Erin's wearing the E skirt with this top. So just to throw out some other patterns that we have with gather, since that's kind of our highlighted technique and concept, along with collars and stands today. We have our collars and stands tutorial, and we also have some other tutorials that we'll talk about that mention gathering. So Betsy made the ruffled zane tutorial sometime in the last couple years, and she took the zane pattern and created this ruffled option on top of one of the panels within the zane. So that is a tutorial. It's not in our sale this week, but it's something to look at if you just want to make another version of a fun summer shirt. Betsy used a lot of Liberty cotton prints for this shirt, so it's a great option for the zane. And I wanted to just highlight the ET sleeve variation. So you can take our ET pattern, our most basic t-shirt pattern, and in our ET sleeve variations online workshop, we show you 3 different ways to make sleeves. So one of those sleeve options is a gathered sleeve. And I did this when I went to a Justin Timberlake concert. I bought a concert tee and I cut up the tee and reshaped it, added new neck binding. You can see I added some reverse applique to include some hearts, but I also did the ET sleeve, gathered sleeve variation. So it's a fun way to add a different sleeve option to a basic t-shirt. And then our newest pattern, the bird blouse, has gathers. We don't have a lot of patterns with gathers. I noticed that our Alex top has only slight gathers in the center back, but the bird blouse has a lot of gathering. It has a gathered yoke. And so later on, we'll talk about the difference between the bird blouse gathering and our sort of traditional method of So gathering techniques. Linda, you want to talk about just kind of our tried and true method of gathering? Or
Yeah, sure. Well, I have a preferred method. Kathy Davis has a preferred method. They're totally different. So we're going to go through both of them. But my preferred way is to, of course, make the flat ruffle first. And in order to keep the edges together, the raw edges together, so that I can gather those edges, I do use fusee web along one edge so that I can, quote, glue the edges together. And then I don't have to worry about lining up all of the raw edges. So that's where I start.
And this is straight out of the tutorial that's on sale this week that has the pages specifically for ruffling.
Yeah. All right. So then I use something like pearl cotton, a little, or it could be like a buttonhole twist thread, but something a little bit heavier. You probably could use polyester thread, but I use something a little bit thicker. And I put that about a ½ inch from the raw edges of the ruffle on the wrong side of the ruffle. And then I set my zigzag to 3.5 wide by 3 millimeters long. I zigzag stitch over that thread for the entire length of the ruffle. So then using a presser foot that has a channel, and there are several of them that do that. This just happens to be one. I'll lay that thread down ½ inch from the edge and zigzag over it. And then I leave thread tails at each end. That is my means of ruffling. I'll pull the heavier thread, and it creates what I consider to be a very, very even sort of gathering. And it's going to stay there as you stitch it. So I don't have to fuss with it as I'm stitching the ruffle onto something else. It is already done, so to speak. The gathers stay in place. I do use a, I never can think of the name of this tool. It's like a blunt end plastic tool. You can use anything. You can use the end of scissors. You can use a blunt needle. But you know, I'll every once in a while need to settle one of the gatherings down a little bit, and I'll press that with this tool, any tool. Yeah, there's a good graphic of it, of how you're zigzagging over the cord, and then you're gathering it. So that's my way of doing it. And that is the way that we show how to do it on the Venice.
The next slide is actually a video taken straight from our bird blouse online workshop. And this shows not only the way that we talk about gathering for the bird blouse instructions, but you're going to see Kathy actually work with the fabric and show off her method of gathering.
To attach the yoke, the outer yoke, to the front, to the sleeves, to the back, I've run 2 rows of basting stitches. One is 3/8 from the edge. The other one's 3/4 from the edge. So when I actually put the gathers in there, when I stitch down the 5/8, it'll be down the center. I've done it on the other side, so we'll start pulling this up. And I'll do it in 2 sections. I'll do it from the front to the center back, just so it's a little more manageable and I'm not doing the entire.
Well, it seems to want to stop. So let me go back to you, Linda, and I can see if I can get it to work, but it stopped.
Well, I do think we got kind of the gist of it. The 2 rows of stitching, one at 3/8, one at 3/4. And then when she attaches it, well, then she's pulling up both strands of thread to gather it. And she does it in sections, mostly from the center back to the shoulder seam to the front, all that. And then when she's attaching the ruffle to another piece of fabric, she's sewing down the center, which does mean that she has to take out that second row of stitching. So, you know, I think Kathy's method is a very classic way to do it, very traditional. I mean, if you own the Vogue sewing book, it may be in there or something like that. And my method is something I learned along the way from someone else who I would love to credit, but I can't remember. And I find it useful for me. So either one works great. Either one looks the same when it's done. And I think you just have to experiment with the method that you like the best for you. There's a lot of gathering on the Venice. Well, there's a lot of gathering on the bird blouse too, but I tend to gather the whole thing at once and pin it in place, so I know that right away that the gathers are even. And then this gets stitched right above, because the seam allowance gets pressed towards the garment, so it's edge stitched to hold that seam allowance in place and hold the gathers as well. I'll show you the bird blouse. There are gathers all the way around this yoke, from the center front to the shoulder and around the back. So there's a lot of gathers here too. But as I said, and Kathy said, she does it in sections. So there's advantages either way.
So I do see a question about getting the variation of the Venice over your head without the center front opening. So as part of the Venice de tutorial, part of the pattern work changes is removing that collar and stand and then creating a new neckline. And yes, there is a keyhole opening at the back, so that is part of it too. So you can have an opening, or you can even, like, I could have extended this opening at the neck much more to adjust my neckline and make it bigger, shape it differently. You can use an existing pattern that you have and even trace that neckline if you love it, and be able to measure that and make sure it goes well with your pattern. But that's an easy thing to do. If there's an existing neckline you like that goes over your head, especially for woven garments, you can consider that.
This particular garment, we've added this seam to make a yoke so that you can make a seam down the center back and then create an opening with a hook and eye. Now, there are lots of ways to finish this. You could look at the Sicily blouse, which is for wovens and does have a keyhole. That's in the back. You could look at the Mix-It shirt that has a keyhole in the front. And you can just leave an opening in the seam allowance as this is done, or you could create like a vent on a sleeve where you have actually a finished piece that finishes the vent. So there are several ways to do it, but the simplest way, and the Sicily has a facing. You can create a facing. So there's about 3 ways at least to do the finishing of an opening in the back. But Alex is right. If you have a pattern that has a vent or an opening at the back, you could copy it. You can copy the shape of a neckline. You can transfer those from one to the other.
When you did the 2 buttons close together, how far apart did you make them?
I would say they are about 1 1/8 inches. And it only happens in 3 places, I think it is. Let me look. Yeah, so you have a button on the stand. You have 1 below that, traditional shirt style, 2, 2, 2, and 1.
Okay, I don't see any more questions.
Okay.
Maybe share fabric.
All right. Want to look at some fabrics, you said?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've pulled out some fabrics that just feel fresh, summery, bright, cotton, lightweight linen. I think there's a rayon up there, which, by the way, I have one other garment to show you that is rayon. So it does work in a very drapey fabric as well. This is a rayon crepe, and it works also. So whenever you have something that's super drapey, then of course it's a lengthening, a slimming look. So that is always something to consider. Same way with the bird blouse. This is a rayon. And they look totally different between the cotton and the rayon. The cotton one, you see the shape differently. You see the blouson sleeve a little differently. So fabric makes a huge difference, as we all know. And that's always the, I call it the hazard of sewing. You don't know what it's going to look like till it's on you and it's done. So you have to be brave. Oops, okay. So, well, we do have the classic black and white, of course, the black and white check. Now, even if you don't make the shirt out of this makes great undercuff, stand, under collar, trim in some way. So black and white check is something that you need to have in your stash because there's black and white check goes with everything. And it just gives it a little extra pop to it. So, you know, buy a yard or two of check and just, if you're not going to use it for this project, use it for something else. Okay, so this is very poochy. And it's rayon, but it's a nice weight. It's not a rayon crepe. It's just rayon. But it has a beautiful drape to it. And if it's not poochy, it should be, because that is exactly what poochy looks like. I love the colors, that mix of mint and lavender. I'm into lavender recently. How about you, Alex? What are you into? Pink, I know, but.
I would say blue.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
I know. Okay. Well, I'm learning to love blue as well. All right. So then we have this, it's a tone-on-tone white stripe base with small 2 tones of green for the small flowers. I just think this is, I hesitate to use the word sweet because I don't want you to think it's like baby sweet, but there is a sweetness to this, a very, I can see a dress, make a bird dress out of this, or of course a Venice. This is all cotton, I believe. Yep. And this one is viscose, rayon. Has a bit of a geometric to it. Looks like a puzzle to me. You would have some matching, but it's a big match, being pretty easy to do. Here's the same fabric in a blue version, 2 tones of blue. It's the same fabric as this. But the background is that white on white, kind of a burnout stripe.
You might have one of those a little closer.
Sure. So the stripe is woven and the green or the blue is printed. Isn't that pretty though? I love this. And then the bottom one on the left here is a very, very classic Liberty of London. And this is from the Bridgerton collection. So if you watch that show, you're going to see dresses very much like this. This is all cotton, you know, the Tana lawn. We've talked to you about that in previous live streams. Okay, this is another sort of poochy swirl type motif. That is linen, and it's a very, very high quality, beautiful linen. Well, I have to correct myself. It's cotton and linen. So that's even better. That means it's going to wrinkle differently than pure linen. It's not going to wrinkle in the same way. It's not going to wrinkle as bad. This one feels like cotton. Let's see what it is. Yes, it's cotton. Feels like an abstract painting. I ordered this one when I ordered the tone-on-tone stripe. I don't know, I was in a mood, I guess. This is also linen, but it's a really, really nice, soft. Doesn't even feel like linen, I have to tell you, but it is linen. And then Alex and I are into icots. That's spelled I-K-A-T. That's how I pronounce it. It can be pronounced in a number of ways. But this is a printed one. Now, true icots are woven, and you get this blurry edge. But this is a printed icot, and I'm crazy about this. This is probably the one I would use for my Venice. And then another Liberty of London with a gold background with green and purple and teal. That's all cotton as well. So those are all the fabrics that are on sale this week.
Would you show a close-up of the sweet green print cotton, which is perhaps the one we showed, but I'm not sure, and then the two-tone green rayon?
All right, this is probably the two-tone green rayon. Nice drape. I wouldn't worry about matching anything here except horizontally the squares. In some live stream, I'm pretty sure that I have shown how to easily match things like this at the seams. And in our virtual sew-along on Thursday, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to match some stripes because the bottom of the trio pants does have a separate panel, and I think stripes either have to match or be completely different. Okay, so then the other one is this one. Let me show the blue one. Well, I'll show the green one. Yes.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
We could still wear these at Wimbledon. We just couldn't play tennis.
That's right. We could wear them. In fact, that's been kind of interesting to see what people are wearing, like Kate. Mm-hmm. She wore solid colors, I noticed. But the other princesses, whoever they are, have been wearing some prints. Print dresses and print tops are the deal. That is what you see out. It's fabulous. I was at a 4th of July gathering, and I had on a print top, and I swear everybody else there had on a print something. It was amazing.
So do you think the two green prints work together color-wise?
Absolutely.
We've been seeing some contrasting fabrics with especially the bird blouse, but you mentioned that with the black and white tech. You could, I'm sure, a lot of these fabrics and pair it with another to, as you said, use it for the undercollar, use it for the button.
Well, you know, we're having this bird challenge going on, and I wish I could tell you who it was, but she did a contrasting front band. I believe the yoke was contrasting, and there was some other detail on the sleeve. Do you remember that, Alex? It was blue.
Yeah, I know who it was. Yeah.
Okay. I think. Okay. Yeah, so I think there are quite a few different elements in the bird blouse that can be contrasted. I could even see contrasting sleeves.
Betsy or Erin might chime in on this, but Erin, the PDF patterns, do they have projector files? I believe yes, there's the capacity to do it. It's a certain file within one of the options. Maybe someone can speak to that.
We don't have projector-specific files, but I have heard from people that the A0 files, which are included on all the PDF patterns, do work for projectors.
Great, thanks, Betsy. So A0, you should be good to go. All right, well, I will share my screen and go through the sale. So you can go to sewingworkshop.com and click on our sale icon. We always update these every week for sure with the sale and with the fabric. And sometimes this third one changes. So click on the sale and it will take you to what we're highlighting this week. So the Venice is both PDF and printed, so you can choose which pattern version you like. Then this So Confident Series 8, the Venice shirt, that's a very lengthy tutorial on all kinds of different ways to make the Venice, how to, you saw a little bit of the PDF of ruffling, so going into more detail in the specific elements and techniques within this pattern. The Venice tutorial is only $5. You can grab this tutorial. It's 12 pages of everything to consider for this variation. The Zane pattern is on sale, and okay, the ruffled Zane tutorial, I think this was added. So these are in here now. So the Zane pattern is on sale and the ruffled Zane tutorial is on sale. The collars and stands is a tutorial. Linda talked about that, sort of her tried and true methods for collars and stands. You can grab that digital tutorial. And then if you want to check out the fabrics and click on them, get better or close-up pictures of them and read about the fabric content, you can click on any of the fabrics. All the ones Linda mentioned that she showed today are in here. So that is our sale this week. Let's see, do I see any more questions? Would the orange and red on top left have enough heft to make a jacket?
Yes, it would depend on the jacket, but I might be inclined to underline it in maybe organza, silk organza, or a very lightweight batiste. I think it would be better.
The yellow mustard Liberty fabric, I think on the bottom left, does look a little bit dark. I think that's just because of the lighting. On our website, it is very bright. I have made a shirt out of this, and I can confirm it is as yellow as we have it published on the website. So it is quite bright. It's tunnel-on tapestry. So I think it's just where it is on the site and probably our screen, but it is much brighter in the light. Yeah.
The yellow leans toward, I'm always thinking in terms of paint colors, Hansa yellow medium. But it leans toward the mustard a little bit. You can see the difference between my yellow of my blouse and this.
Just a quick announcement also, next week was meant to be our bird blouse challenge presentation. We are waiting on some really exciting fabric. If you've been with us in person, we've probably told you about it. We're waiting for this fabric to come in. So we are pushing back our bird blouse presentation with our challenge winners.
Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry.
22nd of July. So is that the right date? Let me just, yes, the 22nd is the Bird Blouse Challenge presentation day. And then next week we'll have a different live stream for you. So thank you to everyone who joined the Bird Blouse Challenge, all of our So Confident members and otherwise. We really appreciate you guys. It was so fun to see all you guys making either straight out of the pattern or the kit or taking the bird blouse and making variations of it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Check out our bird blouse and Trio Pants Summer Sewing Series if you want to join the virtual sew along with me and Linda. We'll see you on Thursday. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.